In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and God saw that it was good.
Wait a minute. Good? You think that what God created is good?
Yep, that's what it says.
Just pause for a second and have a look around at the world. All the suffering, evil, sickness, war, murder, and countless other things that are terrible, and you still think that what God created is good? If God is so good, then why is the world so broken?
Okay, to understand how God is all good and all powerful, yet for evil and suffering to still exist in the world, we first have to understand humanity's origin and the purpose for which we have been created. In the beginning, God created the world and it was perfect. On the sixth day, He created mankind in His own image. And Genesis 1 verse 31 says that when He created it, He saw that it was very good. Humanity was created in the image of a perfect and triune holy God. He was the very pinnacle of what was righteous and good. Therefore, in the beginning, we were also righteous and good. There was no evil, there was no suffering for all of mankind, and we lived in perfect communion with God. After all, that was the very reason that we were created. We were created for relationship and communion with God. However, for there to be a relationship, for relationship to exist, there needs to be free will and a choice. A real relationship doesn't exist without an option to choose otherwise. So in the center of God's perfect creation, He placed a tree, and the Bible calls this tree the knowledge of good and evil. The choice was then extended when God warned mankind not to eat of the fruit of this tree. The devil tempted us, and it was our free will to either choose to live according to God's perfect plan for us, or to disobey Him and to give in to this temptation. In that moment, humanity turned its back on what was good and holy and righteous, and we welcomed evil and suffering into this world. The very free will that was necessary for us to have a genuine relationship with God, that was essential to our very purpose and being, was the cause of our fall. It was not the plan of God for evil and suffering to ever exist in the world. He doesn't find joy in it. He doesn't want this for us. It was our choice to disobey God. It was our choice to eat the fruit and to succumb to the temptation of our fleshly desires. We now live in a world that is a result of that decision, but we now have another choice. We can choose to live according to the plan that God has for us now, or we can choose to continue to live according to our fleshly desires and temptation.
But if God is all powerful, why doesn't He fix it?
Well, He already has. God became incarnate in Jesus the Son with the very mission of saving humanity. In the beginning, He knew the path that we were going to take. So the very moment of creation, He made the choice that He was going to have to come to the earth as a man who was both fully man and fully God so that humanity can be saved. We've sinned, we've fallen short, so we don't deserve to spend eternity in heaven with Him. But God wanted relationship with us so much that He sent Jesus. He became incarnate to come to the world to pay the ultimate sacrifice for us. What better way to fix the sin and the fall of mankind than to come to the earth yourself and pay the ultimate sacrifice yourself for mankind? He didn't have to do that, but that's His desire. His desire is communion and relationship with mankind. So I would suggest that God has already done everything that's necessary for Him to fix the broken world in which we live. Now we have another choice. We can choose to accept this free gift. We can choose to live our life according to the plan and purpose of God. We can choose to live according to what the Bible teaches us to do, or we can choose to ignore it. We can choose to continue living in our fleshly desire. We can choose to continue to live in sin. Nobody's perfect. The Bible tells us in Romans that all have fallen short of the glory of God, but our job and our duty as Christians is to every day make the choice to become more like God. That's how the world will be fixed. If every person chose to live according to the plan of God, there would be no war, there'd be no famine, there'd be no STDs, that so much suffering would no longer exist. Let me show you. There wouldn't be any war anymore because everyone would see each other as brothers and sisters and family in God. There wouldn't be any famine anymore because people would understand the concept of generosity and feeding the sick and looking out for those who are less fortunate than ourselves. If people lived according to what the Bible taught, the world will be full of love and grace and peace. People would live in a place of self-sacrifice where we put each other first, where we love first, where we forgive. The mission of the church is to now reach the lost and to see those who don't know Jesus have their very souls saved and for them to make their step towards becoming more like Christ. If we do this successfully, if the church now does this mission, outworks this plan of God for humanity, we make one step closer into helping fix the world. We make one step closer of making the world a better place and seeing the original plan of God outworked, where people reject their fleshly desires, where we have a free choice, but we choose God, we choose relationship, and we choose communion. If we come back to that first question, how is God all good and all powerful, yet evil and suffering still exists in the world? The answer is simple. God gave us a choice because He desired relationship with us so much, but we fell short. We rejected Him and we chose to live according to our fleshly desires. We chose to fall to temptation. So He paid the ultimate price so that we can have relationship and communion with Him. He's fixed the world. Evil doesn't exist because of God. Evil exists because of us, because of mankind, but it can be fixed. It's not without hope. We can choose to now pursue God with everything, to become more like Him, to live according to what the Bible teaches, to be faith-filled Christians. And when we do, when we see other people make this choice, the world becomes a better place. This is how we know that God is good, that He made the choice for us. He didn't need to, but He is the ultimate good of the universe. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a theologian who grew up through World War II, saw the absolute worst of humanity. And at the end of the day, what he said was this: God is the ultimate good of the universe. Mankind has evil inside of us, but God is the ultimate good, the measuring stick for us to look to. The Bible tells us that God is love. The Bible tells us that He is everything that is holy and righteous. And Revelations 4 says this, that God is holy, holy, holy. It tells us that God is the ultimate pinnacle of good. It is now our choice of whether we choose good or whether we choose evil. It's our choice whether we pursue good or whether we pursue our natural fleshly desires. So to answer the question of how God is all good and all powerful, yet for evil and suffering to still exist in the world, the answer is simple. He never wanted there to be evil and suffering in the world. We chose this. So He made a way for us to spend eternity with Him in paradise with no evil and no suffering. That is proof of how He is ultimately good and ultimately all powerful. Life on earth is temporary, but eternity in paradise with Him is the best thing that He could ever give us.